Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode 52 Amazing Authors, 52 Weeks. Today, I'm joined by author Marni Goldman, and the name of her book is True to Myself Peace, Love, Marni. Hi, Marni.
Hi, how are you?
I am blessed and highly favored, as they say.
Love it, love it.
So, before we get into the book, tell our listening, viewing audience, who you are, a little bit about your background. One of the things that I really like about your book is that you were being true to yourself, but you also help the reader understand that they are not alone
Yeah.
in their respective journey, the transition. So, tell us who you are, and then we'll talk about the book.
Okay. I always start out saying I'm almost Studio 54 years old, but I was born, it has to be fun, but I was born into a family that had severe mental illness. And from it was genetics and circumstance that caused a lot of my disorders that I found out later in life. But I was born into a mother who was suicidal. I had fathers that left. I was abandoned as a teenager at 17. At 19, I lived with someone who was physically abusive with me, and this went on and on for years. And at 47, I found out that I had PTSD, I had trauma, I had ADHD, anxiety, OCD, borderline personality, eating disorder, every symptom. And I couldn't get out of bed for years when my children needed me, like 15, 16, 17 years old. And I hit rock bottom. Rock bottom's basement. I know I'm giving a lot, but there's so much. And I fell apart. And I was at his meeting for my son at his school. He has special needs, and a mother was upset and wanted me in for a meeting. So I went in, and she looked at me and she goes, we're all not privileged like you. Like, privileged? With respectfully, I have been in a fetal position crying for days. I haven't left my house under my covers. I have been homeless multiple times. Don't judge this book by this cover. You don't, just because I wear lashes and lipstick doesn't mean internally I'm not depressed and struggle every single day with my mental health. So after that, I said, you know what? I need to write a book. My whole life, people have been, please write a book. Your circumstances are outrageous. And I said, people are going to judge me anyway. So I took all my journaling, and 2019, I just wrote it all out. And it was the most therapeutical thing I did. But then came the healing, because then it was look at what I lost and what life I could have had. I mean, my life is an ongoing soap opera. I am Dynasty, like it doesn't end, and I'm still living that arc. But I love when people say, "Oh, you also have been homeless," or "I too have ADHD," or "I suffer from anxiety or body dysmorphia," and all of these stories come full circle in my book. So it talks about the tragedies, but then how I overcame them.
Wow. So a couple of things I want to share with you. And one of the things that I am so, so grateful for is that these conversations are authentic. We don't have a script. We didn't have a plan. It's just two women. And by the way, I am 50 years old, almost 51.
Love it.
And don't look, don't look
Oh, oh my
51.
God. Your
But I
skin is
also
fabulous.
also don't look like what I've been through either, right? I think oftentimes, and I'm gonna share this with you as I'm a Black woman, right? I think sometimes people have this perception that, for example, white women are privileged and that your life was all daisies and daffodils, right? And that is a misconception. Many of my friends say that my parents didn't pay for me to go to school, right? But I think some women in my race believe that all Caucasian women, other races had it easy, and that can be far from the truth. But I
Yeah.
think that we have these misconceptions, these biases that we just carry with us, and we don't take the time to get to know people. And I'm sick and tired of people saying that, oh, they have lashes on. Oh, they have makeup on. Clearly, life is good. And I think about these episodes that I'm doing. Initially, I had makeup on. And then I was like, you know what? Your girl is traveling every week doing a healthcare consulting project when I sit down to record these episodes and hear about all of your stories after reading the book, I realized I had to come to the camera as I am.
Love
And
it.
I'm beautiful without makeup.
Oh,
And so,
fabulous.
right. And so I realized that I had to focus on the message that you all were going to share with the listening and viewing audience, and less about lashes and makeup and lip gloss and all of that, because that's when you know who you are as a person and you're confident. But now you look good. I need to
Oh,
kind of figure out how to clean up myself.
no, you look, you are, I'm watching you glow. You are just this light bulb of glowy energy. I am so adoring you right now. This is just, it was meant to be at this moment right here. The universe has us talking, and there is no place I would rather be than right here with you. And I thank you again for that. But it's a funny misconception because people, when they look at me on the, I'm bubbly and happy, but my book starts out when I was 17 in 1987. My mother was addicted to crack. Her boyfriend threw me out of the car, drove away with all my stuff, and physically left me on the cement at a gas station. Now, this is 1987. There was no texting, no Ubers. No family wanted me. And the only family I did have, my aunt, who was very Miami socialite and zhuzhy, you had to be thin, you had to be pretty, or you were not loved. So I needed a mother figure, but it was only conditioned upon how you look. I was a chubby teenager. I'm a teenager. I ate. I was 20 years old and I was like 180 pounds. And she would look at me with disgust. And I, and that's why when I had my daughter, I would never do that to her because my entire life has been contingent. Well, if you look this way, you'll be loved. I needed to, find somewhere to live, to be nice to this person. So there's so much I've been through that people just sit there like, what? But don't judge a book by its cover. It's
Listen,
hard.
I tell people all the time, I don't look like what I've been through. And I'm so glad that you shared your journey with the world. When I wrote my book, I disclosed that I had tried to commit suicide, right? Shortly after having my daughter, who, fun fact for you, my daughter, who was 32 in 2024, is special needs. So as she was growing, I had to figure out who I was, who I needed to be to care for her for the rest of her life. And we figured it out, right? Was it easy? No.
Oh,
But every day of my journey made me into the woman that you see today. And I think something that's so important, I never lost my joy. I
never.
may have been sad, a couple of times, but once I turned that corner to
That
be
was it.
owning who Lisa Campbell is,
Love it.
all bets were off. No one was going to be able to take me down.
Nope.
Doesn't matter who you are, what you have. I am clear on who Lisa Campbell is, and everything else is irrelevant.
Completely. We're like disco balls. I fell apart a million times, but I came back put together stronger and brighter. And no matter what has happened to me, whatever I was 20, 30, 40 into my 50s, I just say this is part of my journey. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And I use this analogy. Life is like a Pac-Man game, boop, 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 eating the pellets, and then you hit the wall, but Pac-Man doesn't stop. He just backs up and keeps going. And that's what I try to tell people is rock bottom's basement. I've had suicidal ideation. My daughter was in Gainesville. I was living in Jacksonville, which was an hour and a half from each other. And she had to come to my house because I can't take this pain. That suicidal ideation was just, this happened 3 years ago. So up until present day, my life has been a journey to figure everything out, why I act the way I do. And I don't regret anything because if I did, I wouldn't enjoy this moment. And that's what people tend to do is they focus on the one thing that happened to them and they, woe is me. It's like, pick yourself up and keep going. It's part of your journey.
I
And
love it.
oh, thank
So
you.
I was gonna tell you when you said disco ball, immediately I was like, at first I was afraid.
Oh, oh, wait, wait, hang there, right there. Here we go.
All right, gone
If I
now, go.
walk, don't turn around now. I know if I could sing, I would be doing. Look, I think I'm at a karaoke bar right now with you. Okay, how? Okay, this is the best interview.
I love it. I love it.
Yes,
You know
we are
what?
survivors.
We are survivors. And I think that it's a blessing to be able to tell others about our stories, because we made it to the other side. And when you make it to the other side, it's not for you. It's for everybody else that you are going to impact that's going through the same thing. And I'm in healthcare, right? So you just gave a laundry list of diagnoses: ADHD, ADHD, so attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, suicidal ideations, post-traumatic stress disorder. Believe it or not, I'm not a psychiatrist. Let me just tell you that. I have a doctorate in healthcare administration. I know how to administrate the healthcare
Right.
space. But I believe that we all have some form of vicarious trauma that we have yet to resolve, and it is holding us hostage.
People are walking around. They don't like, I never knew. I didn't find out till I was 47. Why did I have level 10 reactions to something that was level 1? And people don't understand some of their quirks or their fears is all comes from unhealed trauma. And that's why I beg people to reach out, because you don't it's a lot of people lose marriages and love because it's not communicating. I didn't realize, like, I would come home and why aren't the dishes done? It wasn't the dishes. It was I felt disrespected. I felt this. And then I understood. I became aware and communicated. And that saves me. But people are not aware. They just, you look at someone and they're like, oh, that girl's such a bitch. No, she's really not.
She's
She has so
not.
much inner pain. You have to pray for people like that. They're not bitchy. And that has helped me not be intimidated by anybody because everyone is suffering. When I see a lady rude or a man or anyone rude, I think you've been through a lot of pain right now. And I'm going to pray for you. I don't get mad anymore because it's not about me. It's, if people understood the way people project, it has nothing to do with you. And when you stop taking that personally, not personally, life is just, and you don't go back to that other side. Once, like you said, we went over and survived what we have gone through, and our stories are different, but that feeling is the same. That pride that we did it, we didn't give up, we kept going. And that's what I want the world to know. Now, I can't even get people originally to hear my story because COVID was the breaking point where the rumbling of mental health started. When I wrote my book, I used the term mental wellness because I didn't want to offend people. So it was a little ahead of my time of the time, but I have had all these years to heal and understand. And it's now people are like, okay, let me hear so I'm not alone.
Oh my God. And there are so many people that need your help, because I think the labels that get put on people make them not want the help, right? I'm going to just try to figure it out. Like, I'll just use an example. In the African American community, just pray about it, right? And God's going to work it out. Okay. You need help, right? Prayer does work, but you need a professional to help you work through the things. But first, you got to acknowledge that the things are present, right? And that
Awareness.
you need to go after the help so that you can heal and move forward. And that may involve forgiving people who hurt you. And forgiveness is not for them, it's for you.
My inner
Right?
peace. I don't want to walk around with all their yucky in me and all their bad energy. I release it. Go away. Yep.
Absolutely. But something else you talked about was not taking others' emotions personally. So, one of the books that I've read is about emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And emotional intelligence is said to be one of the key characteristics for being successful in life. And so, recognizing, first of all, being your own emotional boss, right? When you see someone that's going off the rails, don't take it personally because it has nothing to do with you. But I think oftentimes immediately we want to just go in, rescue them, we get
Yep.
offended, when really, if you just take a step back and realize they're going through something that has nothing to do with you.
Yep.
Just because they went to 10 doesn't mean you need to go to 10, right?
Exactly.
You need to pull back, because if you go to 10 and they're on 10, what do you have? Two people on 10 and it's
Yes.
explosive.
Explosive. Yep. It's destructing. And I do this with my family. If my daughter or my son, if they're in a bad mood, they're just miserable, I don't tell them feel better. Why are you upset? I just remove myself. I'm like, you could be as upset as you want, but I need to protect my peace and my energy. This is not personal, but I just remove myself from situations that are going to bring me down because there are those energy suckers. If you feel a minute of those energy suckers deflating your balloon, get rid of it because we don't get this moment back. I wish life was a rehearsal. Believe me, I wish I could push rewind. Well, I don't, but it could have, would have, should have. But this is the only moment we have, and I will never spend another minute taking life for granted. I mean, it's there's too much to live for, and I am a beacon of hope for people to as you are as well. But when people hear that I have been homeless, I have had this, I've done so many horrific things, but I'm here smiling. Just never give up. Never give up.
Oh, that's chapter 3.
Yeah,
Never give up.
Oh, I love you so much.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I like that you are telling others to never give up because they may not have someone in their immediate community, their village, that's telling them to never give up. I think COVID definitely shed light on the mental health crisis. And what I think we all don't realize, there are people walking around in and around places we go that are walking time bombs.
Yep.
And as a
not like a teacup, like a bomb. Exactly.
yes. And as a healthcare professional, one of the things that has really kind of frightened me is that some people are going into hospitals and are shooting, physicians. So when that person is going to 10, you need to take cover, right? Take yourself out of the space. And I said to someone recently, I was on this meeting, right? And the meeting was a little heated. It was virtual. I was in the meeting, but I wasn't on camera. And after about an hour, I logged out. And someone texted me and said, "Why did you log out of the meeting?" I said, "I have no more emotional real estate for this situation."
Yeah. Oh my God, you speak my language. I love it.
And I was like, I'm tired. It was a Sunday. I had just finished traveling. And me staying there another hour, allowing that situation to feed into my soul was not healthy for me.
Work those boundaries.
Yes.
That's self love right there. That is such a perfect example of doing what's good for you for your own. It's not selfish. It is not. It is so necessary because had you sat there, you would have been more tired and cranky. Exactly. So that is such a perfect example of what self love and boundaries are. Thank you.
Well,
I like that analogy.
so speaking of boundaries, in chapter 4, you talk about just find a rich man.
That's what I was told. Yep. My mother, seriously, I'm not saying this is jest, worked for a madam and said to me my whole life, just find a rich man because she was married 6 times. And so I only knew no one ever told me to go to college or an education. It was just find a rich man. That doesn't work well. Okay. I don't like that because I have told my daughter, she's 24 now, since she was born, all her friends, you never depend on anybody. You be independent, never depend on anybody. Because if you do, you'll pay for it the rest of your life. Be independent. So that's all everybody told me was to be with a rich man. But at one time, my mother had relapsed back on crack in 2003 and said to me, "I'm going to set you up with a man. You need to go to the airport Miami hotel." Of course, I didn't. But I'm like, wait, this is my mother telling me to actually be a whore? I mean, whether she did it to marry someone or she legit said, go to the hotel and meet this man. He'll pay you good. I didn't have anywhere to live, but I wasn't going to do that. That was not, but people hear that and they're like, wait, that happened to you? Yeah, that's part of my story. And I say it proudly because it made me who I am today. But that's all I was told. It was like a religion. Find a rich man, find a rich man. That's why when my daughter graduated college, it was such a blessing. I'm like, you be independent. You will never have to depend on people the way I've had.
Wow. So guess what? Our youngest daughter is 24 as well. And she's still single. She's living on her own. And one of the things I think is a misconception. First of all, I got married later in life, right? When people are individuals, they're whole individuals, and they join together to become one, they should be elevating each other, right? But if you don't know who you are, you pretty much become whoever they kind of make you be like, okay, yes, when you get married, you kind of take on some characteristics of others. My husband will say all the time, as my wife says, right? But if you don't take the time to become self-aware, who you are, what you like how it feels or not feel, right? What someone says to you or does to you can't move into the space where you're joining together with someone else because it's going to become toxic because at some point you're going to figure out who you are and you're going to be like, oh no, I'm not dealing with this. If you would have taken the time, and I'd say for the young girls out there, the young men, take the time to figure out who you are, but
And
most
own
importantly, enjoy life.
enjoy. Absolutely.
So much that you can do with this world, travel and experience different things that when that moment comes, you'll be ready and someone can't manipulate you into what they want you to be.
It's true. My marriage, when I had gotten divorced during COVID, we just got engaged again. So this will be our third time getting married. So that's a whole nother next week from our first date 25 years later, what we've been through. But we started out our relationship on an affair. So I got pregnant, and that's a whole soap opera. I want people to read about it. But as time went on, why are you doing this? Why are you doing it this way? And I didn't love myself. So how could I accept love? I never believed anyone would love me. I didn't know how. I still have a hard time having friends that won't desert me. But the lack of communication with my husband, it it was disastrous. Let me put it to you this way. I mean, rock bottom's bottom. I wanted to rip my heart out because it came so combative. You're taking all the money, and I'm like, now I know it was my ADHD. I needed a dopamine rush. So now I know I cannot have too much money in my account or I will piss it away. It has been like that since I'm 16 years old. He used to take it personally. Why are you doing this to us? I'm trying to work. Now that we understand, it's the awareness that is the key to everything. I would never hurt him in a million years. I didn't know it was the impulsivity I needed and that dopamine. Now I know I can only have $100 hypothetically in this account, so I won't piss it away. So we've learned, and it's so important.
Wow. So you're really talking about truly what the soul needs. And I
Yes.
think we're not aware enough internally, and it hurts us externally, those that are around us that love us. We got to take the time to be true to ourselves.
It is the best feeling because nobody, you could say anything about me, but now that I know I am who I am, there is no such thing as perfect. It's such a wonderful feeling. And I know when people are bashing me, and what people say about me is none of my business, but I know it has to do with them. There's something about me that apparently you don't like. And I don't want to know what people think of me, but I love myself enough. And it's not arrogance, it's just confidence. Like I tell my daughter who's dating, why are you worried about a boy if he likes you? You have to worry, do you like him? And that's what a lot of these young girls, I want to tell them, stop obsessing if he likes you. You're fabulous already. You have to make sure you like them. So I try to empower these girls to never have to be like I did in a situation.
Oh, I love it. So many life lessons in the book. And honestly, even though you're a woman that wrote the book, men can benefit from the story as well, because believe it or not, what has happened to you has happened or is happening to them, and the same rules apply, right?
Saying it's across the board, it doesn't discriminate. There's no age, race, gender. Depression is depression, anxiety is anxiety, and it's the stigma. So the more that we talk about it, people are like, wait, it's okay to say I'm depressed? Of course, our world's crazy. We're not supposed to be happy all the time. But I now watch for different signs. And my son, that I was mentioning, who's 18 now, who has this rare genetic disorder. But when he was in middle school, he would come home every day after being bullied or whatever it was, and he'd put on 9/11 or the Titanic, and he would only watch the destruction parts. And I started to notice a pattern. That was his way of coping with what he was feeling internally. So I tell parents, pay attention to these little signs. I mean, it was like that aha moment, my literal Oprah aha moment, when I realized that's why Noah's acting that way. That's why he's watching this. So I pay attention to all of the details. It helps.
Wow. Wow. You know what? As I have been going through my own transition, one of the things that I've learning is to watch my own emotions And I remember 3 months before my 50th birthday, I was planning this big party, right? When I turned 49, I put my deposit down in the venue
Love
and
it.
I started to conceptualize what this big 50 bash was going to be like. I had 150 people, I had a singer, a guitarist, and all these different things. But simultaneously, I was going through another situation that really started to just try to rip me apart from the seams, that I'm just literally screaming at my husband, you won't help me. And I'm crying. And my best friend, Adrian, who is a crier, she was a crier of
Right.
anything that happens, she's crying, right? And so I started to realize I was allowing this external thing to hold me hostage, and it was hindering what should have been this amazing journey to 50. And once I recognized what it was and then released it, I
Yep.
showed up at this party, had a great time. Here we are a year later, and I'm so glad that I experienced that because now I can recognize it. I can recognize it in myself, but most importantly, recognize it in others who maybe haven't had to figure out how to navigate the thing, right? And we all have the thing or things, depending
Yeah.
on, what the card that life has dealt us. But one of the things you said in the book, and I think you mentioned this before we went on, was that we are all here for a reason, for a purpose, right? And we just have to continue going through life, navigating the cards that life has dealt us, that the universe has positioned us to deal with. I always say that God would never put more on you than you can bear.
That's right.
And it's hard though, right? It's like when I gave birth to my daughter, single parent, months later finding that she could not hear. She does not talk. At the time they said she wasn't going to walk. And so here she is 32 years later. She walks, she doesn't talk. She can hear some things, but she has such a peaceful life because she can't hear all the noise that we all have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And to some extent, that's a blessing.
You know what, ignorance sometimes could be a bliss, like you say with my, I didn't mean that to be rude, but my son, who doesn't under he sees the trees but not through the forest. So when kids were teasing him and pulling his pants down at school and bullying him, he's like, well, they didn't tell me to F off. So that lack of awareness of depth has saved him, because if he truly knew and was typical, God forbid, of what could happen, the repercussions of the kind of bullying he endured. So not knowing, and it's very similar that he is not able to understand what the world has done to him. And it's a very sad thing that the blinders actually are a blessing. Oh, blinders are a blessing. I love that one.
Put that in the next book. So listen, we are almost out of time, but I want you to tell our listening viewing audience where they can find your book, True to Myself, Peace, Love, Marnie. Yes, show us the cover of the book. Yes. Is
Letting it
that
all
you on
go.
the cover?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a fabulous girl, which I'd love to meet her one day from stock photography. But I am on Amazon. You can Kindle me. It is such a good book. Oh, I love you already so much that I promise there isn't. I will give anyone $1,000 if you don't feel better after my book. And I also have a store on Etsy, Fabulously Flawed with two D's, .net, the affirmation explosion galore. Name the product or something that will make you happy, and we have it. So all of my words of wisdom, I took and just put them in an Etsy store. So it's really, really cool.
Well, I'm so grateful that you don't look like what you've been through. I'm so blessed to have met you. Thank you for answering the call. When I started off 52 authors, 52 weeks, I didn't have a plan. The only thing that I did plan was I was going to interview 52 people in 52 weeks. And I just started reaching out and voila.
I didn't go because if I went looking for you, it may not have happened. But I was just living my life and you wrote me, and I was like, heck yeah, boom, I'm there. So that's just an example of how just living your life, the most random things can turn into the most magical.
Oh my God, that is a great place to end. So, listen, everyone, this has been another episode 52 Weeks, 52 Authors. I am here with Marnie, author of True to Myself. Yes, hold the book up. True to Myself. Peace, love, Marnie. Until next time, thank you.